Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Cole Cacmus, and welcome back to the channel. With the new generation of PlayStation being out now for a little while, but stock issues still preventing a lot of gamers from getting their hands on one, I think it's fair to ask, what is the best route to go? Custom gaming PCs or PS5? With the new hardware in the console, it really starts to give my PC a run for its money. I'm sticking to these two platforms because I own both, and so I've had a lot of time to really understand what are the pros and the cons to picking one over the other. Now, obviously, one of the most important factors when it comes to choosing the right gaming platform for you is your budget. It's no surprise that gaming PCs can get pretty expensive. My build with an i7 9700K, 16GB of DDR4 RAM, and a GeForce RTX 2070 Super ran me about $1,700 back in December of 2020. The PS5 starts at just $399 for the digital and then $499 for the disc edition, making it an undeniably good value. Supporting refresh rates up to 120Hz, as long as you do have a supported HDMI 2.1 monitor, which I'll get into in just a little bit, and running select titles at 4K resolution and 60 frames per second, it brings a very competitive experience at the price. When you decide to get a console, you get the benefit of it being nearly plug and play. More likely than not, you already own a TV, you get a controller included with the box, and then possibly you want to pick up a headset for a more immersive experience or to talk to friends. Deciding to game on PC means you not only have to get your hands on the computer itself, but also on a lot of extra peripherals like a monitor, keyboard, mouse, mousepad, and the list goes on. While there are a lot of upfront costs, it is worth considering that on PlayStation, you still have to pay $60 a year or $10 a month for PlayStation Plus to play online games. On PC, there's no additional fees, so you can continue to play online indefinitely. In addition to that, games on PC also tend to be a lot cheaper, which is even more important now because console games, the standard editions at least, have gone up to $70. Plus, I get emails which feel like weekly from Steam saying something on my wishlist is on sale, and a lot of them are pretty recent games. Not to say that the PS Store doesn't have any deals whatsoever, it just seems to me that most of the time, stores like Epic, Steam, just tend to have better deals. Now, when it comes to the games themselves, I would say both platforms have really good ones. A big reason that I own the PS5 is for the exclusive titles like The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, and Spider-Man. I think that even the most hardcore PC gamers have got to admit they want to play some of them. However, in my opinion, a very massive advantage to the PC is that there's a ton of indie titles. A lot of these games are really fun, and you just don't get that kind of experience on a console. Most notably, there's a lot of VR titles because I think that the PSVR is kind of lacking. While it's obviously going to cost a lot more money, you can get rigs that are way more immersive and track your movements very accurately. If you're someone who likes to feel some nostalgia and play older games, I think you'll be very pleased to hear that nearly all PS4 titles are backwards compatible with the PS5. I've been going back to play games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, which both at the time of recording have not been remastered yet, and it's a really smooth experience. You'll immediately have access to your entire library of games when you purchase a PS5, just as long as you are logged into the same PSN account. The biggest downside though is that PS2 and PS3 games aren't backwards compatible, aside from a few ones that are on PS Now, which isn't exactly the same because it's just a cloud streaming service. On PC, you don't really have to worry about like new generations, so any game pretty much from the last decade is going to run well, so long as it does support Windows 10. One thing that's worth noting though, on PC, buying and playing games isn't quite as straightforward as it is on PS5. On PlayStation, you obviously have the PS Store. Really simple, right? You just go there, you download all the games, and you're done. Well, on PC, you have multiple different stores and multiple different launchers for all your games. There's Steam, like I mentioned. There's Epic, Uplay, Battle.net, Rockstar, Origin. You get the point. There's just so many different ones, and it can be very annoying and daunting and confusing for anyone that's new to this space. Now, talking about the performance in games, it's no surprise that the PC is going to beat the PS5 in almost all circumstances. Like I mentioned though, the price to performance ratio is really hard to beat on PlayStation, being able to run 120Hz or 4K 60 at as little as $400. Trying to build a similarly spec'd PC at that price point would be very, very tricky, especially considering that you have to buy all those extra peripherals. What's tricky about performance on console though is that you're pretty limited when it comes to adjusting graphics settings. Aside from things like enabling, disabling ray tracing, it's pretty much up to the developer to optimize the game best for the hardware. On PC, you have access to a load of different settings, so you're able to make precise adjustments depending on whether you want to get better performance, i.e. more FPS, or better visuals. What makes it so powerful is that as long as your hardware allows it, a PC can pretty much run unlimited FPS, whereas the PS5 is locked to 120. But again, to actually go above 60Hz on console, you need to get a monitor with HDMI 2.1, which at this point is very new, and so the monitors that do have it are pretty expensive. And if you want to get a TV, you're going to have to be spending upwards of $800 to even several $1,000s to get your hands on one. But because this tech is so new and it's going to be the future, I think that making the purchase now could be a pretty sound investment if you see yourself using the PS5 daily or every couple days over the next years. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you may have seen my ultra-wide monitor, and let me say, when you go to one of these, it's hard to go back. They offer a ton of screen real estate for multitasking and make the gaming experience much more immersive. Unfortunately, the PlayStation doesn't support them, so you're gonna have the ugly black bars on the side or just a super stretched image. So another factor to consider is the barrier to entry to each platform. Like I mentioned, picking up a PS5 is a pretty easy experience as there's not much required work on your side. On the other hand, if you choose to build a custom PC, it can be a very daunting experience as a beginner, as I know it was for me. This isn't even to mention the fact again that PCs can be several more times expensive as consoles. But the process is way easier than you think. Just watching a few videos here on YouTube, I was able to really get an understanding of what parts I needed and where they had to go. One of the things I was really worried about before building was how I would know whether a part would fit together with all the other ones and still work. A tool that really helped me and made this whole thing easier was PC Part Picker, which basically lets you choose all the components you're going to need for your build and lets you know of any compatibility issues. So for example, if you picked an Intel CPU but then an AMD motherboard, it would tell you, hey, you can't do that, they're not compatible with each other. This was a lifesaver for me because I knew once everything came in the mail, I was ready to go. I'll leave a link to the website itself down below, but also to my part list on there so you guys can get a real reference for it. But with that said, pretty much all you need is a couple hours of time and a Phillips screwdriver. When you get into it, you're quickly going to realize that it's basically just Legos for tech geeks. Now, you can also go the route of purchasing a pre-built computer, which is kind of looked down upon in this whole PC world because it is a lot cheaper just to build it yourself, which will give you more money to pay for things like a monitor, a keyboard, mouse, etc. But, it's nice to know that it is always an option. One of my favorite things about a PC is its customization options. While you can get skins or some third-party plates on PS5, the changes you can make are pretty limited. On a PC, you can get components that match your color theme, most importantly, add those sweet RGB lights. I could have easily spent like $500 in lighting, which, maybe that's a con of PCs. But by far, my favorite is putting a Funko Pop into the case because it adds a lot of personality to the build. But aside from aesthetics, you can easily swap out the parts as needed, so that you'll always be up to date. But it's easier said than done because parts are not cheap, and especially with stock issues, aftermarket prices can shoot those up crazy high. Although on the PS5, it's very user-friendly because when you purchase a console that for the next 5, 6, 7 years, all the games that are released are going to run very well. When it comes to storage, the PS5 only has 820 gigabytes of storage, which quickly fills up with the latest AAA games. You can purchase external storage or actually add an additional internal SSD, but the software that lets you do that is in beta, and so it has some really weird requirements. A couple of companies have come out saying their drives are compatible, but I would do a little additional research. Now, one of the most important considerations for gaming is your lifestyle. A PC may be a great option when it comes to gaming, but if you also need a machine that's powerful enough, for example, video editing, photo editing, development, buying one could be a double whammy. On the other hand, the PS5 is a specifically gaming and media oriented device, which may still be a great option for you. It's definitely a lot easier to set up a PS5 tucked away at your TV set while you can chill gaming on the couch. While it's a pretty big console, it's still not quite the size of a desktop or even smaller form factor cases, making a PC couch gaming alternative a bit more difficult. A desktop will need an entire desk setup along with other peripherals, which makes the choice much more expensive. And onto, in my opinion, the most important factor in your purchasing decision is where your friends are playing. If all your buddies are playing on PlayStation, it probably makes more sense to go with that than a PC and vice versa. More and more games recently have been adopting cross-platform play, but the vast majority of titles are still locked to multiplayer on a single platform. And even on those that do, communicating with friends across platforms is extremely difficult. You can't join Discord on PlayStation or PlayStation Party on PC, and game chat is just not the ideal experience at all. Hey, can you guys hear me? So with that all said, I don't think there's one best platform to go with, as I think it depends a lot on the type of lifestyle you have and the kind of gamer that you are. While a PC is undeniably the best when it comes to performance, it is still extremely expensive with parts and peripherals. The value that the PS5 offers at its price point is very hard to beat, offering 4K gaming at $400 with no need for a bunch of extra peripherals. I personally own both because I love to play the exclusive games on PlayStation for when I want a more chilled and laid back experience, but then also the PC for the more competitive games and to tackle the power-hungry tasks like video editing. Definitely let me know down in the comments which platform you prefer and why. To all of you who've made it to this point of the video, I want to say thank you, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed and want to see more tech content from me in the very near future, be sure to drop a like for the algorithm and subscribe with bell notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care.